And I slammed my fist on the table, boom. And I just screamed out, God, what do you want from me? And then I heard the audible voice of God say, Rick, I just want you to be my son. And for those that are listening, that might not seem like a big thing to you. But in that moment, I instantly knew what he was talking about. Because growing up, right, my dad wasn't there. He was there, but he wasn't. Hard worker, in prison, out of prison, in jail, out of jail, partying, all that, you know. And so I grew up having to prove myself to him that I really didn't need him. Okay, Dad, you're not here. I can do it on my own. I got this. And so when he was finally gone and I had nothing left to prove to anybody, what I realized was I was doing that in my relationship with God.
Happy 2025. Today is January 2nd, and I'm back with my first ever Gentle Art of Leadership podcast guest, Rick Scadden. And what a great day to talk about starting off the new year, not to make a New Year's resolution, but to commit to seizing the moment, to making a decision, to having a vision and working towards that to see that through. Today on the show, we're going to talk about how Rick has done that in his life, from being a 4-time felon to a full-time pastor to a speaker. And then we're going to talk about his next journey of becoming an author. Are you a faith-based father and you want to have the adventure of a lifetime with your son? You have to check out the father-son hike of a lifetime on the Camino de Santiago in Spain. June of 2025, I'm going to be taking a small group of fathers and sons over to Spain. We are going to spend 6 days, hike 70 miles, have some of Spain's most amazing cuisines, see some of the most beautiful places and spaces, but most importantly, spend time together bonding with our sons. If you're interested in this adventure, check out mattshoup.com. When you get to the website, click the Gentle Art of Leadership button and hover down to the father-son hike of a lifetime. Rick Scadden.
What's up?
What's up, man?
Not much, man. Glad to be back.
You were here 73 episodes ago.
Yeah. Episode 1.
Well, when I launched, I remember I said your story is going to be the first one. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that, Joey? We had frames skipping on the camera.
Oh, I remember. We couldn't, the headphones weren't working, the frames were skipping.
I'm good being the guinea pig.
I was a rookie.
You were. Yeah, you were my first.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, dude, we're going to have some first today, though, right? Yeah. Like, it's the beginning of the year. Just wrapped up 2024. We're in 2025.
Yeah.
You've got a really cool sermon that you've been working on. And I just think it's really timely for state of the world and business. And we're hanging out in different capacities now because you're now speaking and we're talking about other things. And we just had a speaking workshop here and you brought it and you helped some people here in a really, really big way. It's just really cool.
Yeah.
I just think back to when last Friday we're having this speaking training workshop. It was supposed to be, I made a little booklet. Here's all the information I'm going to share. It was supposed to be really informative, right? And then all of a sudden, people start coming up like, "Hey, share your story," and then they start sharing just really vulnerable things.
It turned into a counseling session,
but in a really good way.
It was good.
Yeah, and somebody went first, and then somebody went next, and people are crying, and we have the coffee machine going on downstairs, and it was wild.
Yeah,
and then you just stepped in and did what you do.
It was powerful, that moment, and I knew I was going to do that at the beginning. I just didn't know when.
Okay.
Because she needed to be released from that weight, because as people, we carry weights.
Yeah, there was an attendee.
You go through trauma, you go through things, and we carry weight. And sometimes we just need permission to get out from under that weight. And it was just as simple as, hey, I'm going to release you from that.
Yeah.
That's all it took.
Yeah. And who would have thought, years and years ago, before you and I met.
Yeah.
And we'll recap when you and I met and how that leads into today. Did you think 20 years ago you'd be sitting in a speaking workshop in Loveland, Colorado, counseling somebody as a pastor at a public speaking workshop?
Absolutely not. 20 years ago, I was getting arrested.
Yeah.
For something major. And you can go back to episode 1 to hear that.
Yeah, got to go back to that.
I'm celebrating this January. Let's see, what is it? The 26th. So 2004. So 22 years of sobriety of
21.
Is it 21?
Dude, Rick was never good at math.
I dropped out of school in 10th grade. Okay, so this is what you get, right? You get a 10th grade education. 21 years, so celebrating sobriety, getting locked up, all that. It's been 21 years. And it just keeps getting better.
Yeah. And we connected, right? Our stories connected 2012, 13?
I would say 13.
Yeah. I remember when you shared your story, I said, you've got a book someday. You're going to be speaking someday. And you said, I don't know about that. We got to go paint this house up off of Drake Road with this customer over here that doesn't really like me.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I never really thought my story was ready. I've always felt like back then I was still in the middle of my story because I was on parole, still seeing a parole officer, doing drug tests and P tests and at that time. And so I felt like my story was never finished.
Did you feel like you had to be on the other end of that? Because in 2015, after you'd been with us 3-4 years, you came on full-time leadership team, and I decided, hey, like I believe in this guy. Like his past is his past. He's changed it, and we're celebrating in Vegas. And you're like, oh man, I gotta leave. I can't go to this show because you have to catch a taxi to go pee.
Yes, to go pee in a cup. It cost me $80 to do that out of state, peeing in a cup
10 years
in
ago.
Vegas.
That's like 10 years ago, literally.
So the greater miracle from that whole story is my parole officer let me go to Vegas while I was on parole. Like they never do that.
With me.
With you.
That's
And the team.
and the team.
Yes.
We're rowdy.
What's funny is I was looking back at photos from that a few days ago. And you know when we went to go have dinner in the Stratosphere?
Yes.
So in one of those rooms, there was a pulpit standing there. And I went and stood behind the pulpit and someone took a picture of me. That was before I had a passion to speak, before I thought I was going to preach in front of people, before that. And I was thinking back to that moment and I remember how nervous I was just to get behind a pulpit in a restaurant to just sense how it felt.
See, I don't remember that. I'd have to go find the photos. Joey, if I give you a photo, you can cut it in here.
Yes.
Stamp it, timestamp it, baby.
I will
right
send,
here.
I'll send
Mark
it. I'll send that photo and then the photo of me preaching today.
I have the one of all of us. We're all dressed nice on some bridge, I think by the Bellagio. Do you remember that one?
Yes.
It's all the guys right there. Because we had the wives too. Yeah, I'll get that to you, Joey. I've got that on my phone.
Vegas
Holy
M&E
cow.
trips are fun.
Yeah.
They were fun.
What do we do here?
So we went to that.
No, like what people are like, what does M&E do? We're doing Vegas and
It's
this guy's in jail. We're never hiring them. Stop. This is not a good start to our commercial for M&E Painting and Roofing.
Do you remember the restaurant we went to where if you took a shot of liquor, they would smack your butt with the paddle?
The Hofbrauhaus? Yes. So hold on. Let's give some perspective. We literally have a new team member. It's her first week here. She's
Yes.
like, what's going on?
Old
we had
Ebony.
a great year, and we decided to celebrate. We went out to Vegas. We brought the spouses. We brought in a really impactful keynote speaker this is when I was getting into DISC and leadership
just
language, and we
starting out
brought in
with all
Steve
this.
Sisler. The guy's amazing, and he taught us how we were wired and designed and called, and then did that with spouses. So it was a retreat. We were celebrating.
Yep.
And then learning as couples and just having fun. And then you had to go take a pee test.
That was it.
And did you get smacked on the butt at the German dinner?
No.
Did anybody take that shot? I didn't do that.
No, none of
Well,
us did.
you don't drink.
No, I don't drink. So none of us did.
So from the last episode, you shared your story, 4-time felon, full-time pastor. 2019 was a big transition when you told me. I remember when you told me.
Yes.
Like M&E's not the thing anymore. And I knew that was coming. I was excited that was coming, but it wasn't until just a couple of weeks ago. I was up early one morning listening to your sermon about seizing the day. And you were talking about the dissatisfaction you had at the job. And at first it was a great hook, a great story to open it up. And I'm like, man, like you didn't say you hated your boss, but you were basically like, I hate this job. But we knew that, right? We knew the time was up. So take people back to that, because I think that's a real great opening to what we should talk about today.
So I think in anything in life, right, when you feel like your season is about up and over, you kind of know, and so all of a sudden now stuff starts to irritate you that didn't irritate you before. Things that used to be easy are not easy anymore. And this actually started to happen in 2018 for me. Did not like the job. I loved working for M&E. And in fact, I told you when I first started, The only way I'll ever leave here is if I go become a pastor. Do you remember me telling you that?
Yes.
That was it.
Or if Stephen had to be your boss.
If Stephen had to be my boss, that was it. Stephen.
Are you here, Stephen? Are you over there?
Yeah. And so in 2018, that was it for me. And here's why. Because I was getting so heavily involved in the ministry side of it.
Yes.
And that was like a full-time job. Plus I had my full-time job here, love the people. However, just too much on me. I was raising a young family. We had twin daughters, and twins in general are just massive, right? And if you remember, towards the end of 2018, my father got sick.
I remember that because we were involved in that,
Yes.
in the real estate, and that was 18 to 19, right? That was like December, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was December 2018. But
Yes.
around the beginning of 2018, and I'm a Christian man, so I pray, and I prayed, and I just asked God, when is my season up here?
Yeah.
And He told me 2 years.
He told you that in 2018?
Yes.
How'd you like that?
I didn't like it at all.
How'd you like them apples,
It was
Rick?
it was hard to swallow. However, once He said that and I accepted that, the weight of how I was feeling was released. I wasn't irritated anymore. I wasn't, and so just the knowing that I had my out, right?
Yes.
Where I know what my next is. I don't know how it's going to look. I don't know what it's going to look like. But you said 2 years, so I'm going to take it. And I remember getting through that first year, 2018 into 2019. My father's passing away. One of the hardest seasons of my life, which you and everybody here walked me through, and I'm so thankful for that. You allowed me to be with him that whole month. Invaluable. We restored our relationship on his deathbed. He told me he was sorry. And what was cool was, when you have a father wound, right? Men have father wounds.
Yes.
You don't know why that's there. And for me and my dad, when we were younger, we had an incredible relationship when I was younger. But then when I started getting old enough to realize the crap,
Like, wait a minute.
You shouldn't be going in and out of jail. Wait a minute. Why are we on food stamps, Dad? Wait a minute. Why do you party every single night? Those type of things. That's when I started to drift away from him, And so when we came to that day, on his deathbed, and he's talking to me and he goes, Rick, I'm sorry that I didn't know how to be your father. I didn't have one.
Yes.
That never crossed my mind. My entire life, adult life, up until he's on his deathbed.
Because you're not thinking about what's going on. Then you realize what's going on, start to realize the pain and focus on the lack, but don't realize, right, that there was never the example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't even cross my mind. And so when he told me that, again, there goes that weight. A giant weight was lifted off my shoulders because I'm like, oh, I can forgive you now because you didn't have an example of a father, so you didn't know how to be a father.
Question, if he wouldn't have told you that, would you have realized that ever?
I don't know. I don't,
Did you ever talk with him about his lack of a father when you were interacting with him?
No. See, in our family, we didn't talk about stuff. You just didn't like each other until magically one day you did. And so everything always got swept under the rug. I'm mad at you. I'm just not going to talk to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, we never talked about it. And so, here he is on his deathbed and I'm thinking, man, I wish I would have known this earlier so I could have had more grace for you, Dad,
Mm-hmm. Is it one of those things where, like, was it frustrating? Hey, I wish you would have shared so we could have restored that, or was it?
It was
a little bit of everything, right? Like, hey, I'm still carrying this because you didn't tell me. It's got to be a mix, no?
Yeah. And up to, the last 2 years of his life, he kind of really distanced himself from me. And I love my dad. He led me to Jesus when he got out of prison one year. That's invaluable. I am who I am because of him. But then he turned his back on God during 2008 when the big crash happened. He lost his business. He lost everything. And so he started drinking again. And since then, I didn't talk to him because it was like he didn't want to come around me because he knew he was drinking. I didn't like it. But up to the last 2 years, he really started to pull away. And I think that's because he was sick and he knew it, but he didn't want to tell me.
Yeah.
And so, here we are on his deathbed, he says that, and I'm just, it releases that weight for me to go, wow, like I can actually like move forward and move on.
Yeah.
Invaluable, man. And so,
we're honored to have been a part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you remember, because I was in the hospice with him for a month.
Yeah.
And it was, when you're in hospice, you're like, man, I just got to get away. So I left. I came into work that Monday because I'm like, I need to get into work. I need to do something. And then I got the call like 2 hours later that he had passed. So
This was January 19th.
this was in January. Yeah. So we found out he was sick December 2018.
Yep.
He was a week and a half in the hospital until they said, there's nothing we can do for you. Like you're going to die. And then he went to hospice for like 2.5 weeks.
That's right. So what was the date that he passed?
January 28th.
28th. Okay.
My wife's birthday. Yeah. Just rough. So I make it a point every year to, celebrate her big time. I love my dad, miss him. I'm going to see him again one day. I know he's in heaven. I know, and so, but that, was the ending of my first year in 2018, one of the hardest years of my life. So here we are, 2019, right? And I'm back at work, with M&E. It's still the slow season because it's, I know the summer's coming, and I'm like, okay, God.
And that's the time when it hits you.
Yeah, we're in the second year, and then I felt like I wasn't right with my relationship with God and the whole thing, and I felt distant. I don't know if anybody who's listening has ever lost a parent, but you feel like you lose a portion of yourself as well. It's like I lost my identity. It was so strange. I didn't know who I was. I wasn't connecting with God the way I was connecting with him before. I wasn't hearing from him. I wasn't, excited about the church thing that much anymore. And it was just had me for a loop, man. And so I'm sitting in a coffee shop up in Fort Collins.
And you're a pastor at this point.
I'm not pastoring yet. Interim, I'm doing ministry. Okay. I'm not on staff yet.
But you're in there in the church doing your thing, speaking to people.
Yeah, I'm still speaking. I'm still
doubting and
groups,
unconnected.
And so this is going on the inside of me, right? And I don't know what's going on. So I'm at a coffee shop, Fort Collins. Remember it. I'm crying at this. I'm weeping at this table because I don't know what. My Bible's open, and I slammed my fist on the table. Boom. And I just screamed out, God, what do you want from me? And then I heard the audible voice of God say, Rick, I just want you to be my son. And for those that are listening, that might not seem like a big thing to you. But in that moment, I instantly knew what he was talking about. Because growing up, right, my dad wasn't there. He was there, but he wasn't. Hard worker, in prison, out of prison, in jail, out of jail, partying, all that, And so I grew up having to prove myself to him that I really didn't need him. Okay, Dad, you're not here. I can do it on my own. I got this. And so when he was finally gone, and I had nothing left to prove to anybody, what I realized was I was doing that in my relationship with God. I was trying to prove myself to him.
Because you'll reflect as the son of your earthly father, how you interact with your father.
I was trying to earn things. I was trying to perform for approval, And so when my earthly father was gone, I had nothing left, And so when he said that, it released something on me. I don't have to perform anymore.
Is the paint or roof on your home or business starting to look a little shabby? If so, reach out to one of our sponsors, M&D Painting and Roofing. M&D Painting and Roofing is a full-service residential and commercial painting and roofing contractor in Northern Colorado. And full disclosure, I'm the M in M&D. Check them out at mdepainting.com. Are you a small business trying to navigate all of the landscape of digital marketing and don't know where to go? Reach out to one of our sponsors, Imprint Digital. They are the go-to source for all things digital marketing. They are the producers of this podcast, and they run all of the marketing for all of my companies. Check them out at imprint-digital.com. What month was that? Because I know that we're getting towards an impactful.
So that was April.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know where this is going for that summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was April.
So that's April. So
I had
3 months in.
Big epiphany.
To losing your dad. Okay.
Up to this point, I'm a Christian at this point. Let's see, 15, 25. I'm a Christian at this point going on 20 years. 20 years. And I never truly had what I thought I had because I was doing it out of performance based off of my relationship with my earthly dad. And it took all that for me to get to this point. And so now I'm free. Okay, great. I'm back on track. Everything's good. And then now all of a sudden, we're getting ready to hit the summertime. And then I get an opportunity finally to go, hey, come this time this year, we would like you to come on staff at the church. And so we're nearing the end of the second year, right? And so I call you. I think you were in Spain.
Yeah, so I'll interject there because as that's going on, and I remember that, right? The real estate and your dad passing.
Yeah.
I don't remember the coffee shop. I don't think we had that conversation, but I mean, I knew when you started that you weren't going to be here forever. I knew when you started that you'd be a pastor. I knew when you started that you'd be speaking, and I knew when you started that you'd be writing a book. I'm still razzing you about that book, man. We're gonna get that done one day.
One day.
But I got invited by Colorado State University. We've got the scholarship up there. And Jonathan Carlian, what's up, Jonathan? He's like, you got to check out the Camino. Said, hey, I've got an opportunity for you to come out, coach these kids that are going on the Camino. So I'm on the Camino, this 6-day, 72-mile adventure. And we at M&E, once you're here for at least a year, and you'd been here longer, I think that was the year we decided that we would pay for somebody to facilitate a life plan for you.
Yes.
And that was in July. And you were wrapping up your life plan. And it wraps up by you having a statement in existence and a purpose statement.
Yes.
And I remember pulling into day 4, these little cabanas in northwest Spain and Galicia, these kind of campsite cabanas. And I looked at the time and you were literally just wrapping up. And I texted you. And that's what I remember. So like, take it from there.
Yes.
Do you remember on the other end of that text? I vividly remember where I was.
I sent you, I think I sent you my life statement.
Why do you exist?
Yes. Why do you exist? And then I think you had asked the question, so what's your decision now? Because I told you my decision before the life plan, and you said, well, hold on. And this is how awesome you are. And, and anybody listening, I can attest, Matt does pour into his people selflessly. And,
Thanks.
And so you said, hold on, I'm going to pay for this life plan for you, which is amazing. And you said, I want you to do the life plan. And then after that, you tell me your answer.
Because that's what it does, right? You think you know.
It flushes out.
But that process, God led, right? Obviously.
Yes.
And it consolidates it into one statement.
Yes. And I would encourage anybody that's never gone through that process, if you're wondering, maybe you're in your 40s, 50s, and you still don't know what your purpose is, go do a life plan.
Yeah.
It will change your life. And it is. It's 2 days intensive. You're sitting there and you're flushing out your life all the way from when you were born up until that point. And you're hitting these different markers throughout the history of your life, and you're honing in on purpose and vision and values and all these other things. And you arrive at this statement, and then you're able to make decisions based off of that statement.
Yeah. And so I remember I said, what's your statement? What is it? Was it? Still is.
The statement to the fool is raised and redeemed from the ashes, accepted as a son. I am called to the battlefield to lead, nurture, teach, and ignite with passion and excellence in everything I do, especially in my family. And so that, although it might not mean something to somebody else, every little word in that statement means something from me. It's a portion of my life wrapped up into one, because I view life as a battlefield. I've had to fight ever since I was born. And I shared that on the first episode, kind of my life story in that. And so came up with that, sent it to you, and then I told you, I think I'm supposed to go do this.
I feel like I responded, when are you leaving? Wasn't it?
You might have said something.
Because it was July. I said,
yes.
Well, we gotta find your replacement, because you're not doing that painting houses.
Yes.
For Karen with the gray house. Are we going to talk about that?
We should talk about Karen.
We should.
Yes.
No, that was pivotal. Not to pay her any attention, but
and I believe that was part of the 2018 saga.
Share that.
Yeah, and so
because we're joking about it offline, but it's funny, not funny.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, when I worked here at M&E, I was a senior project manager, and I was responsible for production. And you're dealing with customers, you're dealing with crews, and sometimes you get those customers, right? And in business, you got to take them, right? And but I love your philosophy working for you. It's like, hey, we got a no dick policy. Like,
hold on, did you hear what you just said?
Yeah, a no prick policy. I don't know.
Prick. No, just got to clarify.
Yes. And so
no jerk policy.
No jerk policy, whatever that is, right? Because it's like we're people serving people, right? We respect and honor each other. We're providing you a service, and you're paying us for it, right? And so it's this whole thing. Well, this one customer, she was bad.
We're not going to name her. because she's irrelevant.
Yes, it was the whole situation
Yes.
where, I mean, she's complaining about everything. And when you go to paint a house, and if there's something wrong from the first paint job they had 10 years ago, it's going to come up on the new paint job, and they're going to think you did it. And so that was coming up. The crew that was on there was sloppy.
Her whole life was wrong, but didn't she also complain about every other part of her life that was awful and miserable? Just the whole thing was destined to have this happen.
She spewed on the porch about everything else that was going wrong, and so we couldn't, and she even made a derogatory statement towards me about being trailer park trash, and where I'm from. Like,
she didn't like the paint job, so she said they only paint houses like this in the trailer parks.
Yes,
wasn't it that?
Yes, it was something along those lines, right? And then she goes, "Oh well, or no," she said,
"You wouldn't understand what it's like to have a nice house."
Yes,
that's what she said.
You wouldn't understand what it's like to have a nice house. This is what they do in the trailer park. And I'm standing on her driveway, and she says this to me, and I was fuming. It took everything in me to not say something back.
I hope you're watching this podcast, ma'am.
Yes.
That was really nasty of you.
It was nasty.
It was nasty.
But I finished out the job. We did her right.
Did we finish it?
We did.
Did we?
I actually personally went over there myself and fixed all the mistakes. Got it to a point to where we agreed to just part ways, discount and all. And then that was it. I don't know if you've painted for her since.
No.
But that was part of the 2018 saga of, that year of just, God, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done.
So you got that 19, coffee shop in April, life plan in July. And then, you transitioned out. I think that was, we figured out who it was. Right? Stephen was working.
It took 6 months to transition.
Yeah.
I got ordained to be a pastor September of that year. I still wasn't on staff fully, but I got ordained through the church, and I think I was getting kind of part-time stuff. And then when everything was solidified towards the end of December, I started full-time Jan 4th of 2020. And everything was awesome for 20 days until COVID hit. And so first-time pastor, national security, health threat. Nobody's ever seen something like this before. And so it was a heck of a time to be a pastor.
Well, I was right. I was 4 doors down because we had NOCO right over there. We were right down the street from each other. That's when you used to train.
I know. I haven't trained for a while. Well, they say blue belt's the longest belt.
It's been real long for you.
It's been long, like 4 years.
Was it? All right.
Yeah, already. Almost 5. It's probably 4. No.
In a minute.
3
like
since I've trained. It's been 3 years since I've trained.
Mm-hmm. So I remember that COVID just shook everything up, right? So many people that were getting into something new, business, pastoring, and then we make it through that.
Well, and so, I'm preaching this message a few weeks ago, and I titled it Seize the Moment. Yeah. And so I used that story because when I got the call from Pastor Aaron, who's my boss, hey, we can put you on staff now, that's when I really started being double-minded. Because now I'm like, oh, hold on. Is this the right decision? I know I've been praying for it and we're working up to it, but when it comes down to make the choice, are they going to be able to pay me? I felt like I was letting you guys down here at the team. This is what's going on inside my head, right?
I remember the conversation because I didn't feel that you were, but I remember we had a conversation about like the pay and what that transition, because you called me.
Yes.
I can't remember what exactly we were talking about, but you were doubting that still, right? Just having
the whole thing.
What was that? What was fueling that though?
A fear.
Yeah.
It's always fear, right? And for anybody listening, it's like, your fear of the unknown is stopping you from seizing your moment. And we all have them, right? We all have these moments in our life where it's an opportunity that comes across our path. And because I'm afraid, right? I'm fear of the unknown. I don't know what's going to be. I don't know this. How will this do this and this and that? We end up not making the decision, and we don't seize it in the moment. And we buckle, we cower, and our life remains the same. Yeah. We never truly go on to do great things because we are afraid to seize the opportunity. I remember when you had been talking about writing a book for a long time. All right, this is Painted Baby. And
I started it in 2015 at a book retreat with Mike McAllowicz and Michael Port. Yeah.
well, and I remember you wrestling with signing, right? That contract. In
In 2020.
was it 2021? Yeah.
2021. Yeah.
We had those discussions,
October.
And,
Yeah.
It's like, well, take a risk, right? You're a risk taker, big time. You really are. And so, but we do that, right? We let fear stop us, and we don't end up doing what we're called to do.
So somebody listening knows that they're not making a decision. They're not seizing the day. Like they know the calling, the
Yes.
purpose. That's clear. They went through the life plan. Some people don't know that. We'll park that. But let's say they do. Seems like it should be so easy, right?
Yes.
It's my life plan. In 2015, I did mine. I think it was 15. And I was called to write and speak.
Yes.
And then it didn't happen. So how do you get over that hump? Like how do you break through that fear and seize the moment?
It's making the decision, right? It's for one, you have to be hungry enough to step over the chicken line. You have to be, if this is, and I liken it to, Eminem in the 8th Mile. If you've seen that movie, he's staring at himself in the mirror. He's getting ready to go out there, and his song "Lose Yourself" comes on, and he's talking about, you only get one shot.
Yep.
And he goes through it, but if you let it pass you, the whole opportunity, it's for nothing. And so the whole point of that story is to
You were going to
lose,
wrap that for a minute, man. Are you going to wrap that?
lose
here?
yourself in the music, So you lose yourself in the music the moment you own it. You better never let it go. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. And we don't own the rights to this, so just helping you out.
Thanks. Let's not get canceled. This is great so far.
Opportunity only comes. He says this at the end. Opportunity only comes once in a lifetime.
Yep.
And so when those opportunities come around, who are you going to be? And I think we need to ask ourselves this question, right? We need to, again, because we're selfish in nature, we always ask, what's in it for me, right? Well, what's in it for me? When instead we should be asking, who am I going to become? If I seize this opportunity, who am I going to become, right? What's going to become of me? Is it a chance to grow? Is it a chance to, I'm risking everything? Well, you have to risk something. You don't get anywhere in life without risking, right? And so I use this story from the Bible. It's a story of Elisha and Elijah. Elijah's the master. Elisha's his pupil, right? And so he's discipling him. And the day comes for him to pass on the mantle from master to pupil, right? From master to disciple.
What book is this in if you want to read it? Reference it.
This is in Samuel.
Samuel.
Or no, I'm sorry, Kings. I'm sorry, 2 Kings.
You sure?
Yes, 2 Kings. And so he knows that his master is about to be taken from him, and the mantle is about to be changed from Elijah to Elisha. It's the mantle of the prophet of God, massive mantle. And in the story, it says that Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind, and his cloak, which represented his mantle, fell from the sky, and it fell on the ground. And so in that moment, Elisha had a choice to make. Was he going to seize the moment by picking up the mantle and walking in his destiny, or was he just going to continue to live his life the way he did? There was an action he had to take. He had to actually physically pick up the mantle and take it on and put it on. Mm-hmm. And then he had to actually physically walk out what that mantle was.
Because you mentioned commitment, right? So how do you conquer the fear? Well, commit, decide, step over the chicken line.
Yes.
But I did that in 2015 and didn't finish the book.
Yeah.
Because I kept getting pulled back to and behind the chicken line. So you see that a lot, right?
Yes.
So it's not just commitment. Because you talk about New Year's resolutions, right? We're day 2 of 2025 right now, as people are watching this. They just made a New Year's resolution 48 hours ago?
Yeah.
Depending. Oh, let's not try to do that math. Not too long ago.
I'm not a big New Year's resolution
And day
guy.
4, it's done.
Well, I think
what else is there? Commitment is the first step.
the statistics on that really they're staggering. It's like within the first couple of weeks, I can't remember what percentage, but it's high that people just stop altogether. Within like 3 months, it's like 2 to 4% or something like that of people that are still committed to their New Year's resolution, so to speak.
Isn't the difference between a choice and a decision If you remember Jim Hensel,
Yes.
Strength and Honor Code, he says, a decision you make in a moment, but a choice, and I might be messing this up, you choose every day, right? You can make that, hey, I'm going to do this, but then you have to make that decision.
Every single day.
Continued every day. And the potential for loss, failure, or what happens if you don't become that person that God calls you to be has to be greater than the friction that's in front of you.
Well, I think it starts with that statement. Like I said, who do you want to become, or who will you become? So what is that? That's vision, right?
Yep.
So you have a vision of where you want to be, right? And so when you make that decision, your eyes have to be on that vision, because vision will carry you. Vision will excite you. Without vision, you will perish.
Yes.
And so you need that. And so you make the decision, you seize the moment, and then you have to follow through. There's got to be follow through. But you have to also be disciplined.
Vision before decision, would you say?
I think so, yes.
So vision,
Yes.
decision, gap to bridge.
Commitment.
Then you need to commit. And that's where it all
comes
falls
together.
apart many times for many.
Yes.
Or comes together.
Yes. Well, and then you need the discipline to carry it out. You have to, because if you don't, you're going to wake up those. Because if you rely upon your feelings, right? We're in a generation now where people rely heavily upon feelings, right?
Yes.
I don't feel like this. It's not about feelings, right? It's about who cares? Like, David Goggins, what does he say about your feelings, right? And so I can't say that on this podcast. I already got in trouble for one.
For what?
A bad word.
That he says?
Yeah. What does he say?
You're not going to say that. I know what he says.
I'll never say the
I know
F
what
word.
David says.
I'll never say that.
We can go boop. We can bleep it. No, I'm not.
But that's what he says. F your feelings, right? Because it's not about feelings. It's about discipline.
If you made decisions about your vision based on your feelings on a daily basis, no one's getting anywhere.
You would never get anything done.
And if it's a calling, there's going to be friction and there's going to be resistance and there's going to be things and people coming against that.
Absolutely.
Right? Forces, especially if you're talking about the spiritual realm.
Yes.
God, the enemy doesn't want that to happen for you.
Well, and there's still days that I don't feel like I'm a pastor. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't feel like I'm an author, Matt. So it's like, why would I sign a contract for a book to write when I don't even feel like I'm an author?
Well, you just haven't signed it yet, dude. I keep telling you, when are you going to freaking sign this thing, man?
It's coming. It's coming.
All right.
Let's
set a date. Can we just set a date? Can we hold him accountable before this is over and set a date, Joey? I'm sick of talking to you about this.
Set it.
It's funny you said that, because accountability is your next step, right? It's commitment, it's follow through, discipline, and then it's accountability. You need accountability in your life. You need people, men and women, and I'm thankful, Matt, you've been in my corner to hold me accountable to those things. You need people like you, mentors, friends, that are not afraid to hold you accountable, to go, hey, you've been sucking on this, you need to pick it up, or hey, you're slacking on this. It's time for you to get going on it, and you have to have somebody in your life that's going to hold you to that. Because when we're left up to ourselves, there's not enough discipline in and of yourself to do it.
Yep. So if you're 2 nights ago, December 31st, had a little champagne, right, with whoever, the missus, your family, your friends, you're like, we're making a resolution. That is an emotional, yay, everybody's doing it.
Yes.
I'm going to lose 40 pounds.
Yes.
Then you take another sip of the champagne. That's not vision, commitment, decision, discipline, action, accountability.
No.
That's just a feel-good thing that you do at midnight.
Yeah.
And it wears away quickly.
It wears away. I actually avoid the gyms in January.
Oh, they're ridiculous.
They're ridiculous. About February, they all leave.
Busy here too.
Yeah.
Yeah, NOCO.
And so it's like, hold up, like, no. Let's relook at this thing, right? We need vision, because vision will sustain you in those moments when you don't feel like doing it, when you don't feel like getting up, when you don't feel like doing another podcast, right? The vision will sustain you, because it's where we're going. And this is just a part of the journey, and we have to enjoy the journey while we're on it.
If you're a Christian small business owner, you have to check out one of our sponsors, the Foundry Advisory. They are a Christian peer advisory community here in Northern Colorado and the Front Range that is designed to give you encouragement, support, and insight to grow your business with other like-minded Christian business owners. Not only are they a sponsor and a partner of this podcast, but I'm also a member of their community. Check them out at thefoundryadvisory.com. If you've got junk in your life or business that you need removed, reach out to one of our sponsors, Hulk Addicts. They are a full-service junk removal company, and they'll be able to take care of you at your home or your business to get rid of whatever you don't want. Check them out at hulkaddictsjunk.com. Another thing, too, because I feel like people could mistake this, and I've been learning this, but, we talk about, so Goggins, he talks about hustle, and work. You have to get up. I didn't want to get up 2 mornings ago, and I did. And I went to bed real late. There's a point of, hey, I know when I need to just rest and give it a minute because I need to restore. I've got nothing to give if I'm totally empty. So you got to be careful with that because there's this hustle culture without any rest.
Yes.
And you can't contribute or do anything when your tank, your reserves, emotional, physical, spiritual, sleep, all of that are totally empty.
Yes.
That's different. But, you just talk about the normal person that made a New Year's resolution and then just hits the snooze button. Like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Get out of bed.
Get out of bed.
Get to work.
Well, and I spoke to our leadership team at the church last week, and I came up with this equation. It's consistency plus rest equals longevity.
Is this math for you?
It is. It's leadership math.
Check that, Joey.
Leadership math. Yeah.
Sorry, say it again.
I think they're fact checking me in the back too. So can you make
we
sure?
We need a fact check TV in here. Maybe
I got a little zapper on me. If I'm wrong, it'll zap me.
Sorry, say it again because I was thinking about making fun of you.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's actually a great equation. So exactly what you talked about: consistency plus rest equals longevity. And so in anything we do in life, right? Leadership, business, finance, marriage, relationships. The goal is longevity. But if we're consistent without rest, we're not going to be, we're going to crash and burn. Yeah. If we have too much rest, nothing's going to get done. And so you need consistency, but you also need rest. And so, when we're talking about this whole thing, making New Year's resolutions and stuff, when you are seizing your moment, once you've made that decision, once you've committed, you have vision, you have discipline, you're going to need consistency. I have a saying that if you miss one day, don't miss two. If you miss one, don't miss two. If you fall, get back up. Because nothing's forever unless you decide, right? And it's all between our ears. The battlefield is in the mind. And so I've had to grow up to learn to accept that every now and then a little bit of gangster comes out. Every now and then I might get an equation wrong. Don't ask me to spell a word to save your life because you will be dead.
You haven't won any spelling bees, nor will you in the future.
No.
Are you going to write a book, dude?
But I will take somebody like me with passion, consistency, and discipline over somebody who has a PhD that is lazy and, won't do anything.
Yeah.
Because passion is a great persuader. I can walk in a room and get 10 people passionate about something. It's going to move them. They don't need information. They need passion.
Well, you need to do that from a speaking standpoint.
Yes.
As a pastor, as a preacher.
Yes.
You need to obviously back it up with biblical reference and truth and fact. But when you speak, so I watch that tape.
Yes.
We were watching your tape.
Yeah.
It is very.
It's passionate,
very
right?
passionate.
And so, being a speaker now, Matt, it's funny because I remember sitting in what was it, Chick-fil-A, and we're having lunch, and you're challenging me as a man. You need to tell your story.
In Chick-fil-A?
Yeah. Do you remember that? Right, off of Horsetooth in college. So this is when
probably.
You actually
we were either in
convinced
Chick-fil-A
me,
or sushi. We were getting big.
This is when you convinced me to be a speaker, man. You said, "Why aren't you telling your story? You have a story. You need to tell it. So let's tell it."
I don't remember that specific Chick-fil-A. When was that?
That was before I went out to Nebraska and did my first preach.
So when you told me that you were a felon before we hired you,
yes,
after we got kicked off that other job, right? This is how we opened up the other podcast. I remember thinking or telling you, "Hey, you're going to share that story one day." I don't vividly remember the Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
Okay. So that happens.
That happens, and that actually is the catalyst for me actually sharing my story. And then you've been on me to write a book since then. Gosh, that was 12 years ago or whatever.
So before we get into how speaking was, I want to hit on one thing because it was important, and I think we breezed over it, and then I want to park the speaking. But you talked about consistency of your actions,
yes,
and then rest. we just had our Mighty Men's Mastermind Saturday morning. We brought in two speakers. One guy was Joe Atkinson, like homeless to six-figure entrepreneur. He's like bringing it. He was gangster from the ghetto like you. But right before him is Erin Lynham, like super chill mom. Her kids train jiu-jitsu here, and she speaks about Sabbath and rest. It was this really cool dichotomy because Joe comes in, you got to hustle in this. And she's like, dude, you got to rest. So I met Erin through the Foundry, the Foundry Advisory. Yes. They're a peer advisory group, and they're sponsors, and they hold an annual event. So they have groups where you can connect and work on your business, work on your faith. And then they have events, but they have this annual retreat. So I went to a retreat that I've never even heard of before. It's called the Sabbath Retreat last year. And the whole retreat was about resting. I thought we're learning some marketing. No, just rest. Your business will grow if you rest first.
Yes.
And that was a super intriguing concept. So she's been on the podcast. She's been speaking a lot with our groups. They have, for you guys watching this here, we're January 2nd. So June 6th through the 9th, 2025, Foundry has a Sabbath retreat.
Wow.
So got to check that out. If you're a business owner, I'm going to go to the shameless plug right now for our sponsors, the Foundry. Check it out, foundryadvisory.com. Click on the retreat button. One of the most powerful events that I've been to. They have speakers, right, and business building, but they just start with rest.
That's great.
And it's awesome.
Well, again, as leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, we are grinding all nonstop, right? But you don't realize like how much that rest is going to benefit your people that work for you.
Yeah.
Because when the leader's better, everyone else is better. Because everything rises and falls on the backs of leadership, everything. And so if I'm stressed, I'm pushed to the max, I'm squeezed to the limit, guess what my team's going to be feeling? Stressed, pushed to the max, And so it's important that we as leaders and business owners find rest. We have to. It's imperative. But what we do in America is we tend to wear busyness as a badge. Anytime you're talking to somebody and they ask you how you're doing, what's the next thing we always say?
Busy.
I'm busy.
Yeah.
We wear it as a badge, right? And when you're not busy, you feel like you're doing something wrong. Oh, wait, you're not busy? What? Yeah. I'm busy. You're not busy? Yeah.
Erin said that Sabbath can get misconstrued with laziness or it's like, no, it's not laziness. Just resting, refueling.
We don't have to feel guilty for saying no or resting. Like last night, I had to make a decision to say no to a mission trip we have coming up at the end of the year. I had already said yes. I like to be a man of my word, right? I like to follow through. But when I was weighing the options and I sat around the kitchen table and I heard my kids, all three of them say, Dad, we actually want you home. We're tired of you going away. That was it for me, And so I had to make the decision, pull the plug. Hey, I'm not going. Did I hurt some people? Probably. But I need that week to rest, right? It's the last week of the year, I needed that week to rest, right? It was the last weekend of the year. And so, if I don't have that, then I'm going to hit the new year tired, not fresh, not ready, right?
Well, I think, and we'll close with this last thing, is a lot of people think you work, rest. But if you read it biblically, and Erin does a way better job.
Yes.
Like that was the seventh day, right? God rested, but that was not it was the first day of man. Yes. They started with rest.
Yes.
And then go from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important, And so just encourage everybody, again, find that rhythm. We all have to have our rhythms of rest. When you need it. And sometimes you're going to have to learn to rest in your work. What does that look like? Well, take 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, right? Go get a massage. I've been pushing for a massage chair in this business for a long time. And now you have an actual masseuse.
Then you left. We have a masseuse and a massage chair.
I left.
Chrissy stole
You got a masseuse.
Down at Chrissy's office.
You got my glass wall that I've been,
Yep. Hey, you want to go be pastor. So you want to go do your calling.
I know, right?
So let's get to the speaking.
Yes.
And then we got to talk about this book, man, because I'm locking you in here.
Okay.
Until you become an author.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Yeah.
Joey, do me a favor. Tag in the episode notes Erin Lynham's podcast about rest so we can reference it.
Copy.
So yeah, the speaking. When you and I had that Chick-fil-A that, again, I don't currently remember, and I'm sorry, what was going through your mind? how was that journey? I remember going to, here's what I remember is, dude, on Easter, me and the family got in the car.
2014, I think.
Yeah, we drove out to Nebraska.
Curtis, Nebraska.
Curtis, Nebraska. So we must have already had that Chick-fil-A.
My first ever speaking engagement.
And I came to your first event. So excited.
Small town.
Small town.
One stoplight town.
Rick's coming in to share his story.
I'm pulling in this place, and it literally says Curtis, Nebraska, the Easter capital of the United States. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm about to preach my first message ever. And it's an Easter message to the Easter capital of the United States.
It's a lot on the line for your first
fear, anxiety, like everything. And so and here's the thing, they put me up in a hotel. It's the one hotel in the whole place. I'm probably the only person there. And then for some reason, they let the kids have a party, the town kids. They had a party right up above my room. Didn't sleep a lick that night. Not a lick, man. And so here's my first speaking engagement. I go in. You said it sucked. I thought it was good.
Is that why it sucked so bad? That was the party.
Know. Everybody thinks it's good.
Everybody's first everything compared to a decade later sucks.
Absolutely.
Right? Like this book, it's good. That's way better.
Yes.
That's way better. Right? It's like anything.
Yes.
I mean, I drove far. I'm like, okay. I'm like, that was his first.
That was my first.
We wrote about it in Painted Baby, right? We wrote about the first time you spoke.
But again, it's seizing the moment, right? It's like you will never get better if you don't intentionally put yourself in uncomfortable situations.
And even if you choke, you just step back up.
You learn. You never lose, you learn, right? That's what we learn on the mats, the jiu-jitsu mats. You never lose, you learn. And so I learned from that. It took me a while to speak again, but I took away from there, that. And I've always wanted to go back. I want to go back now to just kind of redeem a little bit of
to earn that money they paid you,
earn that
hotel stay.
Earn that hotel stay. I want to go back and feel like I got to redeem myself.
I had a really big opportunity. I spoke at a global leadership conference in 2017 or 18, and that was my biggest event. Totally bombed it. And that organization bringing you back is all based on the rating. So like if you're a 9.5, you're 9 to 10, right? They're bringing you back. You're speaking everywhere, and I got 72. So not bad. But I'm not speaking for those guys again. And I remember they sent me the follow-up, and then I'm like, man, I gotta reply. So my title line was your organization's not so highest rated speaker, and just owned it, and they appreciated that. Like you have to own that, right? If you get that input. And so many people don't want to take that because speaking's personal, writing's personal. We were here in the speaking workshop, and we brought everybody up to speak. We created an area for them to share the message, and then we'd sit them down in a chair to give feedback.
Yes.
And we asked for that permission to give it, and then told them we would be honest, and they agreed to receive it and just thank everybody. And it was really cool to see that environment. That has to be created to really grow.
Yes.
So what were you telling yourself after that talk? I don't know if I told you it sucked. Did I give you the feedback? I can't remember if I did.
Yeah, you did, of course. I mean,
did I?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You were way harsher the other day about it, but I think that's just because we were in a speaking class.
We were having fun, but you got it right.
Yeah,
but in 2014, when you're like, "How'd I do, Matt?" What did I say?
I thought you said it was good for your first one.
And didn't I drive away really fast?
Plenty of, it was good for your first one. No, plenty of room to grow, right? And again, I look at where I'm at today as to where I was back then. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to prep a message. I didn't know how to study for a message. I didn't know how to present a message, because how I write is differently than how you speak. And so I'm pretty, when I prep my messages, I write them how I speak them. Not word for word, but I have a flow. I can't do bullet points. I'm not a bullet point speaker. I have to have a certain flow and a certain mix. And to be honest with you, I'm just now starting to come in my own identity as a speaker.
Yeah.
Probably over the past maybe year. It's taken this long to find my identity, be comfortable in how I present, and to be able to present it in a way that people receive it and are changed by it.
Inspired to act
on it.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Well, I know that you and I have known each other for a long time, and I think I shared this to you on a voicemail or voice message that there was something you said, and it wasn't that sermon, but it was another one where I'm like, man, like that finally speaks to me after how many years? Just got to be the right way for the right person at the right time, even if it's one person.
Yes.
Right. And how cool is it though? So you're coming into your identity. So probably maybe still feel like you're getting started, or not an amateur, but like I'm just starting to become a professional. But then when you can turn around and contribute whatever you've learned, like if you've done one speech, you're more experienced than somebody that's done zero, and you can provide something.
You just got to be one day ahead,
them.
right?
And it was really cool to see that, because I mean, we had people like, we have Juan who will be on the podcast, zero experience, sharing his story. He didn't want to speak. He didn't speak. Even to us, he was real quiet.
Yeah, it's reserved.
And then 3 hours later, after you left, he popped up and just spoke to 30 business owners like he had done it for a long time.
Wow.
It was wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember something you said to me the other day at that. You said, as a speaker, you're here to serve. Because for me, it's always been about, gosh, I don't want to look like an idiot. And sometimes that's a detriment to me, because I mull over a message. And if you chew on the message too much, it's too polished, and it doesn't hit home, And so having that change of perspective to go, man, every time I step on that platform, it's not for me, it's for someone else.
Yeah.
And so I'm here to give. I'm not here to take. I'm here to pour myself out. I'm here to pour myself into people. I'm not here to receive, But in the middle of pouring yourself out, you still receive.
You do.
Because there's moments when I'm speaking and I'm like, that's not my notes, but that's pretty good. And it's speaking to me right now, where I'm speaking to them, but it's actually speaking to me.
We'll have to, Joey, also tag that seize the moment sermon.
Yes.
On the notes here would be great. Man, we're wrapping up. It's been an hour. Do you know it's been an hour?
Has it been an hour?
Been an hour.
Oh my
I'm always watching the clock.
Are you? I can't
You have to watch the clock. I can't let you go.
Everything
off the
inside
rails,
of me
man.
wants to turn around and look at the time.
Don't do it. Don't turn around.
I'm good.
No matter what happens, you can't turn around.
No.
So, dude, thanks for just being
Thanks for having me
part of
on
the journey.
again.
You didn't have a whole lot of likes or ums. Remember we were talking about
Yes.
last podcast? Did he have likes and ums today, Joey?
I think you did great.
At the beginning,
I was actually watching.
I caught myself at the beginning because I was doing, yeah.
Were you?
And then I just like, shut up, say yes, don't say yeah.
The little silence.
Yes.
A little quiet. Man, so much. So last thing we got to do, because you're not getting out of here.
I'm not here for.
You were called to speak, to pastor. Writing's been a thing.
Yes.
I've been busting your, what's about it for a while. So I'd challenge you, like we're here to challenge people right on the second day of the year to seize the moment, make that decision, make that commitment. So what are you committing to in 2025?
Yeah. So, I'm bringing this message, seize the moment, right? I'm preaching it on our platform at City Point Church. Shout out to an awesome church. Come see us. To 1,200 people, right? And in the middle of me preaching my own message on seize the moment, the Holy Spirit goes, "Hey, Rick, do you remember that book that they've been asking you, that they've been challenging you to write?" He goes, "When are you going to seize that moment?"
Literally during the sermon?
During the sermon.
When did you preach that?
Let's see, 3 weeks ago, 3 Sundays ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 Sundays. And I go, oh, yeah, I actually do. And so that Monday, I made a determination to seize the moment. And I brought the contract here today on this podcast, and I'm going to sign it in front of you and the rest of the world to write my book.
We'll go get the contract, big boy.
Yeah.
Didn't Mike Tyson say that? Sign the contract.
Yeah, so here it is, man.
Dang, look at that.
This is it. Professional, scribe professional. Shout out to Ricky Jump, by the way. Thank you.
Ricky, you shouldn't have been working on that this past weekend.
She's working on it during her wedding, which you should be resting. However,
we love you, Ricky. And Eric is the new CEO. Before you sign that, just I have to share this.
Yes.
Their previous CEO, I wrote Painted Baby, and I was getting ready to write my next book that I'm working on before I started that book. This was May of 2024. And their previous CEO embezzled all their money, ran off with it, ran the company into the ground. I'm literally talking to Ricky on a Wednesday, getting ready to sign on a Thursday. And this dude, Javon McCormick, prove to me you're not a dirtbag and a swindler, man. You took millions and millions of dollars, tanked the company, emailed everybody, everybody's gone. And this company literally that's been responsible for so many books just disappears, totally disappears.
Wow.
Like, sure, he's got stuff going on, whatever the story is, but you just stole the dreams of so many people. And I thought Scribe was going to go away. So I was like, don't sign with Scribe at all. I don't think Scribe's going to be around. I went on to do this. Eric Jorgensen, their new CEO, shout out to him. He's come in and just turned this thing around, got it back on track. I'm working on my next book with them, and you're about to jump in. Just full disclosure, they almost were out of business, and now they're back in business.
Now they're back.
And now you're back in business and ready
now I
to
get
do
to
business.
help out, and they're helping me.
Well,
and I got to tell you, again, that message on Seize the Moment, anytime I speak a message at our church, I'm either going through it, have gone through it, or I'm about to go through it. And so this has been on my mind for the past 3 weeks. I called you. I said, "Hey, Matt, we should just do a podcast, man. Let's do it."
Yeah.
And we did it, man. And I'm bringing it on here to sign it.
This was planned, everybody. This was planned.
Full disclosure, I'm scared. I'm going to be honest. I'm scared. There's a little bit of fear in there. There's excitement. There's emotion. However, I know this is. And Matt's flipping the pages right now because he's like, "You're not getting out of here until you sign this."
Did you read all this?
I did.
All right, hold on. I gotta get a photo of this.
Do it.
Actually, I'm gonna do a video, live video, signing the contract.
Let's do it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. What's the date? 10th. Bam. Let's go,
Well,
baby.
it's January 2nd. You just gave away that we actually recorded this on December 10th.
Is it the 10th or the?
Dang it, Rick. We recorded this on the 10th. We're posting on the 2nd.
I'm so bad.
Look at this, man. Hold on. So you are now officially starting your author journey.
Rick Scadden, author. 10th grade dropout. Here we go.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
I want to see how that writing goes. You actually get to
brought a
speak
tear to
about
my
it.
eye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that just a little
A
right there?
little precipitation.
Well,
Yes.
we've never wrapped up a podcast this way. So you were first episode, first author signing a book, live on the podcast. A lot of first today.
Yeah.
But we're going to wrap up the same way
Let's do it.
because you've got a statement that you want to leave with the world. So you're going to leave with that statement, this book contract.
So part of being a pastor leader is leaders go first, right? You got to put your money where your mouth is. And so if I'm talking about seize the moment and I have this opportunity that's been in front of me for, timing's everything. We know that. And I don't seize the moment, then I'm a hypocrite. So I'm not a hypocrite. Here it is. Seize the moment. Sign my contract. Going to take a year. January 2026, I will be back on this podcast with my book, and it will be awesome. But I want to leave everybody with this. And I put on this, again, and I'm a pastor, but I do speak differently. It says, have the balls to seize the moment.
Love that.
Love it.
Rick Scadden.
Rick Scadden. I put Big Rick. That's my
Big
handle.
Rick.
Instagram plug.
It's a wrap.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. Appreciate you. Appreciate your leadership.
Surprise. Never mind. We'll just surprise you now. Surprise. I was trying to work it into the intro.
Ladies and gentlemen.
The man there. Woo! Pastor Rick's here. He hates surprises.
We plan a bunch today, Rick.
Oh my God, I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Hey, thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Would you make sure to please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel here? And please share this episode with somebody whose life it will make better. Hey, one more thing before you go. Head over to my website, mattshoup.com, and make sure that you sign up for the free tools. I will drop you an email with a whole bunch of life, leadership, and business building resources that will make you better. And I'll also keep in touch with you with all of the events, experiences, and updates that I've got coming your way.